Welcome back, friends of Center Ring. This is the third and final part of my Foil Party series. The Foil Party is a tool that I use to inspire growth in my PCs, contrasting those characters with a sort of mirror party that also creates roleplay opportunities, increases emotional investment, and makes combat more interesting. Yes, I know I've been teasing that for the last two videos. I'm finally going to tell you how. Now, for more details on all of this and more, check out parts 1 and 2 of this series. If you want to have your own foil party but don't want to go through the trouble of making one, have mine. You can download the title Typhoons on my website to use in your campaign. 5 fully fleshed out level 5 characters, complete with optional backstories, traits, and quirks, available in PDF format for just $5. Link in the video description. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ryland, everyone hates a DM PC. All you've done is make 5 of them. Okay, but no, I haven't. The DM PC is a common mistake of beginning dungeon masters who also want a taste of the fun of being a PC. They create their own character to add to the party, often one that outshines the other player characters. If you are a beginning DM and you feel that you might be guilty of this habit, trust me, many people do it. It doesn't really work. For obvious reasons, you can find out all about it online. I'm not going to go into that. But here's what makes a foil party different. Let your players handle the foil party in combat. Now, I've mentioned throughout the series that adding a foil party can make combat more interesting, and here's how. Now, instead of playing just one character, your players have 2, which means double the turns in combat, double the strategy, double the inter-combat roleplay, double the stress. It's more to do, it's more to think about. Ideally, you would want them to play a build that is completely different from their own. For example, when the Stormslayers fight alongside the title Typhoons, Sean, who plays our Aasimar Forge Cleric, Antony, also controls Albrecht, who is a Dwarven Battlemaster Barbarian multiclass. This gives your players a wider spectrum of the mechanics to play with and enjoy. They get to try out new abilities, new spells, new builds. It's a lot of fun for them, and it takes a lot of the work away from you. Here's a sort of sub-tip for you and your players if you're going to do this. Don't have the foil party roll for initiative. Instead, let your party and whatever they're fighting roll initiative first, get the order out, and then place the foil party in places that seem thematically appropriate, making sure that each player has plenty of time between the 2 turns that they get. The last thing that you want is to have a player take a long, strategic turn with their own character, and then immediately have another one with a build that they're less familiar with. Trust me, you want to make sure that they're spread out. Your players will thank me. Here's an idea that I had while writing these scripts. It's not something that I've done before. I'm not sure that I would do it, but maybe it appeals to you. You can let your players come up with their own foil character. You could tell them straight up what you're doing, or you could have a little fun with it. In your session 0, or in character creation, or just in a random text to your players, ask them to come up with a foil character. Someone who they don't know personally, but who would act as a mirror to their own character. Then, later in the campaign, all of them show up together as a party. That would be wild. I think if I were doing this, I might actually have each of the players come up with a foil character for someone else's character. That would be interesting too. You also want to make the foils either immune to the plotline or vulnerable to it. Now, what do I mean by that? You don't want the story of your campaign or of the current arc to focus too heavily on the foil party. You don't want your players to feel like side characters in someone else's story. So when I say make the foil party immune to the plot, it means that they can't help out the players too much, because they have their own stuff going on. Yeah, that demon lord sounds like a big deal, and I wish we could help you with it, but we really have to get this baby kraken back to the elemental plane of water before its mom realizes that it's gone. The foil party can be around for low-key fun things, or even some of the serious stuff, or both, but make sure that the players know that the story is about their characters. Now, by making the foils vulnerable to the plot, you're doing the exact opposite of the previous example. Maybe they're hostages that need rescuing. Maybe they took a mission that was way too ambitious for them, and they really screwed it up, and now they really need some support. Whatever it is in the story, if the foil party is a lost cause without the help of the PCs, then they're vulnerable to the plot. Get them off screen quickly. If you're just watching these videos, it may seem like the Tidal Typhoons play a heavy role in our campaign, but in the almost 5 years that we've been following the story of the Stormslayers, I think they've shown up like 4, maybe 5 times, and each for only a handful of sessions. One day, I'll get around to doing a campaign recap, I promise, but just know that the foil party should never be part of the core cast of characters. They might just join the PCs for a bar crawl, or they might stick around for a few sessions, depending on the arc, but give them an excuse to leave when you can. As they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder, so you're actually accomplishing 2 things here. You're not inserting yourself as an additional player, and you're getting the PCs to think, gee, I hope we see them again soon. Lastly, accept the chance that you're going to kill your darlings. Especially if the PCs are playing the foil characters in combat, don't take it easy on them. Nothing says a DM PC like a character with plot armor in combat, who miraculously makes difficult saving throws or suddenly has superior health potions. I'm not saying you have to try to kill the foil party, although you can if you're trying to create a specific feeling or story beat, but if it happens, you have to move on with the cold acceptance of a DM. See? Not a party of DM PCs. Are there similarities? I suppose, maybe. But your intention with inserting this party should be one that's challenging your PCs to grow, not to have your own character to play. Keep this in mind and follow these guidelines, and you'll be golden. Now, in making this series, I've come up with a few ideas of ways that you can introduce the foils in your campaign. Consider these scenarios, or feel free to come up with your own. You know the classic trope that starts most campaigns. You meet in a tavern. Why not meet the foil party there too? Maybe your PCs have a favorite spot where they're regulars, always sitting in the same booth. You know the one. What if one day they walk in and a new group is sitting in their spot? How would they react to this? Are they rude about it, or do they go sit somewhere else? Does a favorite bartender, server, or patron speak up to the foil party about the faux pas? If so, how do they react to it? Next, consider the party trudging through a snowy mountain pass, searching for the lair of a white dragon who possesses a priceless artifact in its hoard. They finally make it to the top of the icy peak, but before they can enter the cavern, another group of adventurers shows up, also ready for battle. There's a brief moment of confusion, and then one of them just says, "Together?" And they all nod enthusiastically. The 2 parties charge in, working together as one group, and only afterwards bother to learn each other's names or what their mission is. This way, you've allowed the 2 groups to bond through combat before anything else. Now, how the 2 parties react to each other afterwards is up to them, but I think this is a really cool setup. I mentioned earlier the fighting pit, which is a classic trope in D&D. You might have one in your game already. Have them send out an announcement that they're starting a new event, group matches. When the PCs inevitably sign up, they can meet another group who is interested. And maybe they'll end up facing each other, maybe not. This is just serving as an introduction. And you can do it with any type of competition. It doesn't have to be an arena battle. You could consider a classic medieval tournament, a race, a sporting event, anything. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything has a great section about group patrons. Does your party have one? Does that patron only support the party? If so, why? What if they had another party that they supported? Would that patron ever introduce them to each other, maybe pair them together for a specific mission? Or is the patron intentionally trying to keep each of the groups away from each other, but they slip up and then the two parties meet accidentally, and the patron spends the next few sessions trying to cover their tracks in the hilarity akin to a Neil Simon farce? What if the patron decided that they don't need two adventuring parties in their employ any longer? How will they choose which one to keep, and what happens to the one that they don't? There are an infinite amount of ways for you to introduce the PCs to your foil party, and I just wanted to provide a few examples. I can think of a bunch more, but I don't want to get carried away, and I want to hear your ideas in the comments. My advice is this: make sure you consider the importance of first impressions. Once you've put these guys out into the story, there's no taking them back. And the PC party will act as they do. Think about what category of foil party you're hoping to achieve, and then come up with a good way to introduce the foils in order to attain that. You've got this. Lastly, I have a few short suggestions that may help create immediate attachments to the foils from your PCs. Consider your favorite characters from other media. What did this character do or say? How did they act in their first moments on screen that made you fall in love with them? How can you recreate that in your foils? Try these ideas. Okay, this seems weird, but it works. Making characters distant or aloof or really even dull or boring as a character trait is, surprisingly enough, a way to make them super endearing to the party. When the Stormslayers first met Cleopatra, she barely said a word to them and actually actively tried to separate herself from conversation, and they were so intrigued. Does she hate us? Is she super passive-aggressive? Shy? Did we do something? How do we crack open this lovable pistachio of a person? It became a personal challenge for them to try and get her to open up, and they were invested in it. Eventually, they learned that the common tongue is Cleopatra's third language, and she is very self-conscious when it comes to speaking it and sometimes struggles to understand it. This realization really cemented their enduring appreciation for her. Everybody loves a tragically in love character, especially when the feelings are obvious to everyone except for the object of their affection. It's a classic trope for a reason. Like I said in the previous video, when it came to the early days of Nyx and Jared, this was so effective in initiating roleplay amongst the two parties, as the Stormslayers tried to play matchmaker. From the moment this dynamic was established, the party had a clear goal in mind, and they were hooked. And yes, they did eventually accomplish their goal. Fun fact: asking for help is a scientifically proven way to improve your standing in someone's mind-eye. Look up the Ben Franklin effect and the studies done in the 60s if you want to read more about it, but essentially it says that if someone does you a favor and then you express gratitude for it, their opinion of you increases more than it would have if you had done them a favor. The name comes from Ben Franklin's quote, "He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you yourself have obliged." It's interesting stuff. How would you employ this tactic with your foils? This one is a fine line to walk, but done well, it works wonders. If an NPC puts one of the PCs in their place, really lets them have it in calling out a mistake or a flaw, it can really make that NPC likable, as long as the source of this frustration comes from a place of care and caution. For example, shortly after meeting the Typhoons, Albrecht really laid into Chard about his use of magic without consideration of the consequences. Albrecht had spent the last 6 decades as a general in a series of wars, and has seen how devastating the arcane can be if used without caution. When Chard used a fireball in a setting that everyone knew had volatile gases in the air, he not only put the foil party, Albrecht's family, at risk, but his own party as well. Afterwards, Albrecht had some harsh words for him, and despite this verbal lashing, all of the Stormslayers, Chard included, displayed a much higher level of respect for the dwarf afterwards. I think you can see why. Lastly, a more fun one. Early in their days together, Antony played a small prank on Jared. It was nothing big, I think it involved a cantrip, Honestly, I don't even remember what it was at this point, and I don't think the characters do either. But the damage was done. Jared had attended an arcane university and was not going to say no to an escalating magical prank war. And for all of their following meetings, Jared had a plan for what he was going to pull next. It was always fun for the PCs to witness or to try to figure out what was happening ahead of time, and I think it genuinely gave Antony's player, Sean, a small level of anxiety about the ways that magic can be used. And it was a lot of fun for me to try to come up with creative ways to implement spells outside of combat or their intended use. This prank war showed that Jared, who is otherwise kind of a bland character, has a fun and creative side, and the party really loves him for it. Friends, I think that's about all I have to say on the concept of foil parties. I'll have one more of my players add their 2 cents to it, but if you're not convinced by now, I don't really know what else to say. Used effectively, a foil party can create some truly memorable roleplay encounters. Your PCs may grow to really love them, and the variety in combat adds so much for your players to enjoy, and there's so many more reasons. I really think that any extended campaign will benefit from adding this tool, and I'm going to stand by that. If you use this tactic, I'd love to hear how it goes for you. Let me hear it in the comments, or you can reach out through the Center Ring website. Thanks for sticking with me through this video series. Next video will cover a completely different topic, but I haven't yet figured out what that's going to be. I guess there's only one way to find out. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want more tips and updates on what's going on in Center Ring. Thank you for watching, and from one DM to another, have an engaging session.
Alrighty, foil parties. I think a foil party in your D&D campaign is a lot of fun. There is so much potential for different character interactions and role-playing, which I really like whenever we're playing D&D. So that's a lot of fun. If your character makes connections with each party member, each one is unique, right? And so it has sort of the potential for different types of shenanigans. Like my character, Zephyr, is really similar in energy to the Typhoon Nyx, and so they get to be, silly guys together. And then conversely, you could have someone like Cleo or Cleopatra, who is the opposite, right? More stoic and serious. So then there's like another version of sort of silly interactions that you can play out on that regard. Outside of roleplay potential, combat is a lot of fun when you have a foil party working with you. So the scale seems so much bigger, right? It's not just you and your party. You multiply into the other party too. So you could have like 10 adventurers all fighting a similar foe, whether it's like one big dragon or a horde of goblins or whatever it is. It just makes it seem a little bit more epic, right? Also, it's fun because mechanically, the DM can give you the tools to play one of the foil party members, and that's a lot of fun because I think the worst part of combat is waiting for your turn, right? So if you have a party in your group of 6 people, you have to wait 5 rounds until it's your turn again. But if you have 2 parties and you're in control of 1 character each, then your turn definitely can come up a lot sooner, and you have a couple things to juggle, which can be challenging, but also really rewarding feeling. It also is fun because then you get to try a different class. Like I don't know, I've never played this, monk character or subclass, and I was like, this is kind of fun. I might make a character like this in the future. Another potential for a foil party in combat can be heartbreaking because now suddenly their lives are on the line and they might not have as much plot armor as your party, right? So the potential for them to go down exists, and so there goes another sort of a sub-goal of combat is making sure that your foil party members are okay and can live to see another day. So that's kind of fun. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for foil parties. I think it really fleshes out the world because they all have their own unique backgrounds, and so it's fun to explore that within your own party. And you go to their weddings. You fight a dragon with them, and so it just really expands all of the potentials of what makes D&D so great.
Hey friends, thanks for watching. While this channel is new and currently has limited content, I look forward to adding all of this in the near future. If you liked the t-shirt that I was wearing in this episode, check it out on TeeTurtle. If you want to stay up to date on every video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can check out the Center Ring website to purchase my D&D inspired fantasy novels, DM resources, and join our mailing list. Every supporter, sale, and donation makes a difference. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, I wanted to add bonus content. In one of my shorts, I explained how my players and I fancast all of the people in our campaign, and the Typhoons are no exception. So, without further ado, here's our choice actor for each of these characters. For Albrecht Hammerfall, it's Christopher Hivju, best known for his role of Tormund Giantsbane in Game of Thrones. Now we just need some forced perspective and movie magic to get this guy to appear to be a dwarf. Alar Silverbreeze is portrayed by Dustin Milligan, who you may know as Ted from Schitt's Creek. We wanted someone who could be fun and charming and cute and also real sexy. And we found him. For Cleopatra, we cast Daikin Lachman. To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen her act in anything, but some of my players are big fans of the show The 100, and they assured me that she was a good fit. Nick Jonas has been cast to play Jared Miller, and in the classic Hollywood style, we'll put a pair of glasses on him and pretend he's nothing special to look at. That'll do it. People with glasses aren't attractive at all, right? Lastly, for Nyx, we went through a bunch of different options. Honorable mentions include Tuppence Middleton, Ashley Green, Jenna Louise Coleman, Becca Scott, but finally we landed on not an actor at all, actually. We chose Mandy Lee, lead singer of Mr. Wives, one of my favorite bands. Now, just turn her into a cute little gnome. That's our casting for the title Typhoons. They're perfect, and I love them.